O traveler, you counted the years as they passed, but you never counted the veils between you and your own heart. Time changed your face, but it could not change your truth, for truth does not bend with the years, the heart bends with awakening. Years passed over your head like shadows passing over ancient ruins, yet nothing within you shifted, nothing awakened, nothing trembled from its sleep. You believed that the movement of time would move you, that the turning of days would turn you, that experience alone would deliver you to clarity. But know this, time does not purify the heart, sincerity does. The years can polish stone, but the rust on the soul remains until the soul itself calls for its cleansing. Ibn Arabi says, the journey is from self to self, and you spent your life journeying from world to world, from desire to desire, from noise to noise, yet the shortest journey, the one that leads inward, remained the longest for you. For the road within is a door that only opens when the ego bows and the heart kneels before its own truth. You searched for light outside while guarding darkness inside. You wanted peace without submitting, wanted clarity without surrender, wanted God without leaving yourself. How can a heart illuminate when it refuses to shatter the idols it worships, the idol of pride, the idol of certainty, the idol of self-love? Ibn Arabi said, to know God, you must first lose the image you have of yourself, but you carried that image like a crown, and so the years passed. But your inner night remained unbroken. Understand this mystery. Darkness within is not defeated by the brightness outside. You may travel cities, read books, meet teachers, accumulate knowledge, but if the heart stays locked, knowledge becomes weight, not wings. The world teaches movement, God teaches stillness. For the heart is not purified by running, it is purified by returning. You counted age as wisdom, but age is only the length of the rope, not its depth. Wisdom is the knot tied between you and the real. If that knot is loose, you are drifting, no matter how old you become. And drifting souls mistake time for transformation. But transformation is born only when the heart breaks open and truth is allowed to enter. Ibn Arabi teaches, wherever the foot of your journey lands, know that the real walks ahead of you, yet you walked looking behind, at your fears, your wounds, your regrets. Darkness remained because you fed it. Doubt remained because you protected it. And distance grew because you never stepped into your own light. But listen, the heart does not remain dark unless it chooses to. A single moment of awakening can erase decades of wandering. A single breath of sincerity can lift the weight of forgotten years. A single tear of truth can wash an ocean of shadows. You believe the years passed. No, you passed through the years. Time witnesses you, but your heart witnesses eternity. And the one who remembers eternity is never lost to the passing shadows of life. Stand before your own soul now, without fear, without disguise, without stories, and you will see, darkness was never your prison. It was only your teacher, waiting to be dismissed. Time does not purify the heart, intention does, because time is only a movement of shadows, while intention is the spark that ignites the unseen realm within a human being. A person may live decades, witnessing seasons turn, relationships shift, fortunes rise and fall, yet the inner state can remain frozen, untouched by all the noise that surrounds them. People assume that growth is automatic, that maturity is guaranteed, that suffering will carve wisdom into their soul. But the truth is far more subtle. Pain can deepen you, but it can also harden you. The years can soften you, but they can also numb you. Nothing is guaranteed unless intention is present, unless the heart makes a conscious choice to transform, unless the soul bends itself toward its own purification. A person may say that life has taught them, but life teaches only those who are willing to learn. Without willingness, experiences pass like wind through an empty room, leaving no fragrance, no imprint, no light. Ibn Arabi reminds us that the heart is the seat of all knowing, and the heart does not open because ears demanded it to. It opens because the seeker knocks on its door with sincerity. Without that knock, time becomes a desert that gives no water, and age becomes a weight without meaning. It is not the number of years lived that elevates a soul, but the number of moments lived with awareness, with humility, with the courage to confront what lies within. Time is an illusion when it comes to spiritual growth, because the heart does not move according to calendars. It moves according to intentions, choices, and awakenings. Someone may wake up in a single moment of 20 years of darkness, and in that instant they surpass someone who spent a lifetime believing they were progressing simply because they were aging. This is why the mystics say that one sincere breath taken in remembrance is worth more than 1,000 years of unconscious living. It is not the years, but the awakening within the years that matters. The heart is like a locked garden. Time alone will not force the gates open. Only intention can turn the key. You may see people who grow older, but remain trapped in the same patterns, the same anger, the same fears, the same ego, the same disappointments. Decades pass, yet their inner world is untouched, as if time has missed them entirely. This is because transformation is not passive. You cannot drift your way into clarity. You cannot sleepwalk your way into peace. The heart does not heal by accident. It heals because the person chooses to see their wounds, chooses to face their shadows, chooses to break the mirrors that only reflect the image they wish to see. Without this honesty, inner darkness stays alive, nourished by avoidance, by excuses, by the assumption that time will do the work for them. Intention is the fire that melts the rigidity within you. Without it, you become a prisoner of your own habits, your own reactions, your own unresolved pain. With it, you begin to witness shifts so profound that even a single sincere day can outweigh a year lived unconsciously. Intention transforms ordinary moments into spiritual openings. It turns mistakes into mirrors, suffering into teachers, silence into revelation. A person with intention can walk through the same life as everyone else, yet experience it with a depth that others cannot imagine, because they are not just living, they are seeking, observing, purify. Returning Ibn Arabi says that the real reveals himself according to the capacity of the heart, and capacity can only increase when the heart is polished. Time does not polish anything, it simply passes. It is intention that rubs away the dust of ego, washes away the stains of pride, breaks the shells of illusion. Intention makes a person alive to themselves, aware of the whispers of the soul, receptive to signs that others dismiss as accidents. It turns years into stepping stones instead of burdens. It transforms the passing of time into a journey toward clarity instead of a march toward decay. And when intention is absent, even sacred knowledge becomes noise. Even experiences lose their meaning. Even blessings become unnoticed. The heart becomes heavy not because it is evil, but because it is asleep. And sleep does not end with the rising of years. It ends with the rising of inner will. When a person finally decides to open themselves, to confront their truth, to surrender to what is real, then a single moment can do what decades could not do. A single intention can do what time never promised to do. A single turning of the heart can illuminate every darkness that remained untouched through the year's longest journey is the one you never took, the journey within. Because every step you took in the outer world was only an echo of a movement you refused to make inside yourself. You walked across cities, crossed paths with countless people, tasted victory and loss, loved and were wounded, yet the inner landscape remained unexplored, untouched, unchallenged. You moved through life, but you did not move through yourself. And this is the greatest paradox of human existence. A person may travel 1,000 miles outward yet remain trapped in a single unexamined thought inward. Ibn Arabi reminds us that the world is a mirror, and when the traveler refuses to look inward, everything they seek remains hidden even though it surrounds them in every moment. People often assume that the spiritual journey is a distant mountain, an invisible realm, a secret knowledge locked away from ordinary life. But the truth is simpler and more terrifying. It begins where your excuses end, where the stories you tell yourself fall silent, where the self you defend begins to crumble. The journey within is short in distance, but vast in depth, because it requires you to face everything you avoid, everything you suppress, everything you pretend is not part of you. You can hide from the world, but you cannot hide from your own heart, and yet most people spend their whole lives trying to. They fear stillness more than they fear storms, because storms come from outside. But stillness reveals the storms inside you, have learned many things, skills, languages, systems, but you may not have learned yourself. You may have mastered tasks, but not your thoughts, may have acquired knowledge, but not understanding, may have gained followers, but not inner authority. The inner journey asks questions that unsettle the ego. Who are you beneath your roles? Who are you beneath your desires? Who are you when no one is watching? These questions are not answered by time. They are answered by courage. Ibn Arabi teaches that the truth of a person is the truth of their heart, not the story they present to the world, and the heart only reveals itself to the one brave enough to descend into its depths. That our world rewards movement, business, accomplishments, achievements, but the inner world rewards presence. Presence requires that you stop, turn inward, and listen to the whispers beneath the noise. But we fear what we will hear. We fear the unresolved wounds, the hidden envy, the quiet grief, the buried dreams. We fear meeting ourselves because we know, on some level, that transformation begins with that meeting, and transformation demands surrender. The journey within threatens the ego because it exposes the illusions it has built. It forces you to admit that the life you live may not reflect the truth you carry inside. You can spend years running from your own heart, distracting yourself with goals, with entertainment, with ambition, with relationships that keep you busy but not awake. But no matter where you run, the self runs with you. The destination never changes because the destination is you. Ibn Arabi says that the cosmos is within the human being, not outside them, and yet people search for meaning as if it lies in far-off places. They cross oceans for clarity while carrying confusion in their chest. They chase light while refusing to open the window inside their own soul. Longest journey is always delayed, postponed, avoided, not because it is far, but because it is demanding. It asks for honesty. It asks for humility. It asks for the dismantling of the false self, the identity you built from fear, from praise, from expectations. It asks you to walk through your own shadows without looking away. It asks you to confront the parts of you that you have buried under years of pretending. And yet, once you begin, you realize something extraordinary. The journey you feared was the very path to peace you were seeking. The darkness you avoided was the doorway to light. The self you resisted was the self that could have healed you. Every mystic understands this truth. The outer world is only a reflection, an echo, a symbol. The inner world is the source. When you change inwardly, the world responds. When you illuminate the heart, the path ahead becomes clear. When you awaken within, everything outside aligns with that awakening. But when you ignore the inner journey, even the brightest blessings appear dim, even opportunities feel empty, even love feels insufficient, because the one receiving it is not present, not whole, not connected to their own depth. You may think you have lived many years, but you have not truly lived until you have walked within yourself. You may believe you have traveled far, but distance means nothing if the traveler remains unchanged. The journey within is not measured in miles, but in moments of sincerity. It does not begin with movement, but with recognition. It does not end with knowledge, but with awakening. And the moment you turn inward, the path that once seemed impossible reveals itself as the only path that was ever meant for you. Darkness survives because you protect it, not because it is powerful, because the shadows within you feed on the things you refuse to confront, the emotions you bury, the wounds you deny, the fears you justify, the stories you keep repeating to yourself. It is never the darkness that is strong. It is your attachment to it that gives it weight. It is your avoidance that gives it life. It is your silence that gives it space to expand. A person does not remain trapped because the prison is locked from the outside. They remain trapped because they hold the key in their own hand and never use it. Ibn Arabi reminds us that every barrier between you and truth is a barrier you built yourself. And every veil that covers your heart is a veil you unconsciously chose to wear. Human beings protect their inner darkness without even realizing it. They defend their anger as if it is their identity. They cling to their pain as if letting it go would erase who they are. They justify their fears and call them caution. Justify their jealousy and call it awareness. Justify their pride and call it dignity. The darkness remains not because it has conquered them, but because they keep feeding it with excuses, with ego, with resistance. Most people do not fear the light. They fear losing the familiar darkness that has become their home, even if it suffocates them. They stay in the shadows they are used to, because stepping into the light demands a vulnerability. They are not ready to face the ego protects darkness, because darkness protects the ego. Ego survives in unexamined corners of the soul. It thrives on blame, on denial, on stories where the world is always wrong and the self is always justified. It resists every form of introspection because introspection exposes its fragility. Ibn Arabi says that nothing veils you from the real except yourself, and this is the truth in its purest form. You are the guardian of the illusions that keep you small. You defend the very chains you want to escape. You nourish the very wounds you pray to be healed from. You cling to the very shadows you claim to hate. Darkness grows where attention refuses to go. Whatever you avoid becomes stronger. The fear you never face becomes a monster. The grief you never release becomes a weight. The lie you repeat becomes a truth in your mind. The disappointment you never heal becomes your lens for every relationship. People wonder why their lives do not change, why peace feels far away, why clarity does not arrive. But they do not realize that healing does not come to the heart that is barricaded. Transformation does not come to the soul that is defended. Light does not enter a room whose windows are kept shut. You must open the door to let light in, and that opening is nothing but awareness, honesty, and surrender. Darkness cannot survive exposure. It dissolves the moment you look at it without fear, without justification, without distortion. But to look at it, you must be willing to be uncomfortable, willing to face truths that shake your illusions, willing to admit that some of the pain in your life is not caused by others, but by the parts of yourself you never addressed. You must be willing to step beyond the role you play, beyond the story your ego narrates, beyond the image you show the world. You must be willing to sit with yourself without masks, without defenses, without narratives designed to protect your pride. In that fearless seeing, darkness loses its power, because its power was always your refusal to look at it. People think awakening is about collecting wisdom, but awakening is about dismantling the shadows that lie beneath the wisdom. It is about removing the layers that keep the heart heavy. It is about recognizing how you hold onto what hurts you. It is about understanding that every negative pattern in your life is watered by your own hands. You protect your grudges by replaying the past. You protect your fears by imagining worst outcomes. You protect your loneliness by refusing vulnerability. You protect your sorrow by not allowing joy to enter. You protect your anger by refusing forgiveness. In protecting these emotions, you imprison yourself inside them. Ibn Arabi teaches that the heart was created to be a mirror for divine light, but a mirror covered in dust cannot reflect anything. The dust is your avoidance, your pride, your fear, your false self, your unhealed pain. You polish the heart not by fighting the darkness, but by stopping the ways you feed it. You do not overpower darkness. You outgrow it. You do not resist shadows. You bring awareness to them. You do not wrestle with your inner wounds. You listen to them and allow them to release you. When you stop protecting the darkness, it has no place to stay. The truth is simple. Darkness remains only because you choose the comfort of its familiarity over the discomfort of transformation. But the moment you stop protecting it, the moment you see it clearly, name it honestly, face it bravely, its hold dissolves, and the heart remembers its light. Once again, no moment of true awakening can erase decades of wandering, because the heart does not transform through time, but through realization, through a single piercing insight that shatters the illusions you have lived inside for years. A person can walk through life half asleep, believing they are awake simply because their eyes are open, yet their soul remains dormant, untouched by truth, untouched by sincerity, untouched by the light that waits behind the veil of their self-constructed identity. But the moment awareness enters with sincerity, everything rearranges itself. What once seemed impossible becomes clear. What once felt heavy becomes weightless. What once appeared as destiny reveals itself as misunderstanding. Ibn Arabi teaches that a single breath taken in awareness is greater than a lifetime spent in heedlessness, because in that one breath the soul remembers what it always knew but had forgotten under the layers of ego and habit. People imagine awakening as a slow buildup, a gradual climb, a process tied to age, experiences, or suffering. But awakening does not follow linear rules. It is sudden because truth is always present. It is the heart that suddenly becomes able to see it. You may live years repeating patterns, walking in circles, searching outward for meaning, chasing illusions that offer temporary satisfaction, believing that change will happen on its own one day. Yet nothing shifts because the heart has not opened to the reality that waits within it. Then one moment comes, often unexpected, often born from breaking, silence, surrender, or a depth of honesty you never reached before, and that moment tears through every veil. Suddenly you are awake in a way you never were, alive in a way you never felt, aware in a way that makes your past seem like a long dream. A single realization can dismantle belief systems built over decades. A single encounter can do what thousands of days could not.